All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Scarlett Miller. I'm the director of the Cocoziello Institute of Real Estate Innovation, and I am also a professor in industrial and mechanical engineering here at Penn State. The Penn State Cocoziello Institute was created to really explore bold ideas and transformational concepts at the intersection of real estate, innovation, and technology. Our mission is really to advance the future of the built environment through collaborative research, entrepreneurial thinking, and with industry partnerships with leaders such as those with us here today in person and online. This afternoon's panel is going to focus on emerging technologies and startups that are really reshaping the ways that we work, the way we live, and the way that we build. From smart buildings to sustainable materials to the rise of PropTech, today we're going to explore how innovation is driving greater efficiency, sustainability, and smarter urban development in real estate and infrastructure. I'm honored to be here today, and thank you for the tech team for helping us with our hybrid panel today. Ben Birnbaum is joining us online from New York, a partner at Keyframe and co-founder of Terawatt Infrastructure. George Birchlaw is a principal of Re-Analytics. Charles Conwell is CEO of Novell. And Amy Palvata is the chairwoman of the U.S. PropTech Council, as well as a founder and CEO at Facilimax. I really love this panel today because it's going to bring a lot of different unique perspectives of this industry and really the vision for the future. So a quick note before we get started today is there are QR codes distributed around the room. If you have any questions, please check those out. You'll see them. I saw someone pick it up. And I will be able to ask those at the end of our session today. So don't be shy. I will look for those. So we're going to start today. I'm going to have each panelist give a short introduction of who they are, and then we'll dive into our questions. So we're going to start online, and then we'll move to our in-person panelist. Amy, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? We're all good? All right. Thank you for having me on this panel. I like to say I'm not a Nittany Lion. I'm a Boilermaker, but thanks for having me anyway. I am the founder and CEO of a PropTech company, but I started my journey back in real estate. So back in 2003, I started a commercial construction company, and that's where I began my journey in commercial real estate after I graduated. And I did that for a long time, and then I transitioned into technology. So my company builds AI solutions for the data center industry. A lot of those happen to be around the digital twin platform that we create. And then I also chair the U.S. PropTech Council, which is a trade association for the PropTech and industry in the United States. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Amy. And the Institute is happy to be one of the first academic partners of the PropTech Council. So you're a Penn State affiliate anyway. So Ben.
Hey there, Ben Birnbaum. I'm a graduate of Penn State, 2011. I'm not sure I would have agreed to do this had I known a Boilermaker would be on the panel, but here we are. Sorry I couldn't be there today. I will be in Happy Valley for the Ironman, June 15th. So if folks are around and want to say hi. I'm a partner at an investment firm called Keyframe. We focus on technology innovation across the physical economy, which includes PropTech is one category. And within PropTech, I probably spend most time on where you're really blending technology and real asset business models. Some of the things that our firm has spent the most time on are electric vehicle charging, data centers, and building electrification when it comes to PropTech. And we invest in both asset developers and technology companies.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben, and thank you both for being with us today. George.
I'm George Birchlaw, Penn State architectural engineer, class of 1993. Super excited to be back in Happy Valley. It's always great to be here. I started my career in engineering for the first 3 or 4 years and realized real estate is where I wanted to be. So I went back to business school and got my MBA at the University of Texas, and then jumped kind of face first into real estate, asset management, acquisitions, and development. And I've spent probably 20 years doing that, but within the past 5 years, I've started a company, RE Analytics. So we do all the data management and financial analytics on real estate portfolios. So we see this huge disconnect of people acquiring assets, but then fundamentally as an investment, but fundamentally, do they know the return on this investment, just because there's so much data and some of kind of the different data formats that are involved in accounting software and property management software really don't tell the picture of how this asset is performing as an investment. So we come in as a service with our technology and analyze complete real estate portfolios to tell the owner or principals which assets are performing, which assets aren't, and give them some actionable items. But super excited to be here.
Always good to have another engineer too. Charles.
Thank you for having me. My name is Charles Conwell. I'm the CEO of Novell. Novell is an energy technology company revolutionizing the way buildings use power. And what we do is we transform buildings into intelligent energy assets. Prior to this, I spent nearly 2 decades in commercial real estate on the West Coast and then in New York City, buying buildings, redeveloping buildings, and operating buildings, and transformed into technology a few years ago.
And do you have a Penn State connection, Charles?
I graduated from Penn State in 2005.
All right.
Very important to note. So,
Forgot about that part of the question.
so Amy, maybe you can kick us off here. We're throwing around the term PropTech. There's other people in the room who may not understand what that word means. So can you tell us a little bit about what PropTech is and its key components and objectives within the real estate industry?
Sure. I tell everybody since I started the group, I get to define the word. And by the way, I need to apologize right now. I'm from Texas, so I apologize for my Southern drawl. I can't stop it, and so it just is what it is. But so for me, PropTech is really any technology that serves the real estate industry. And I get that that's kind of like a very broad-based term, because it could be land GIS tech to marketing for apartment leases. Like, it could be anything in there. But there's a reason behind that definition. It's because typically real estate has been very fragmented and very segmented. I mean, you have the office folks talking to the office folks, and you have the multifamily people talking to the multifamily people. And when I created the council, I really wanted people to start collaborating. And so I defined that word very vaguely for that reason. So, and I think most of the people, if you talk to, as I talk to other PropTech associations around the world, I think most people are coming to that same consensus is really, it's any technology that serves the real estate industry. And so that includes construction tech. And we have a big construction part of the PropTech Council. So that's how I would define it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. I mentioned everyone on the panel brings a unique perspective. Ben, you're both a founder as well as an investor. So can you talk about some of the successes you've seen in the PropTech companies and kind of what makes those companies stand out?
Some successes and some failures certainly as well. But I'll focus on the successes. I think, PropTech's kind of an interesting space, and partially because there's a lot of fragmentation on who buyers are, and there's also a lot of low-hanging fruit in what makes any individual building run more efficiently. So I see a lot of companies with value propositions that seem incredibly strong because they've delivered in one building, but selling from building to building tends not to actually work that well in PropTech, because not everyone's a vertically integrated owner operator, and different people control the purse strings for CapEx and OpEx in real estate. So the successes that I see tend to come in one of two categories. First is they sell into an already well-established channel where there's like a pretty normal buying motion for a real estate organization. An example of this is there's a very successful business in our portfolio called Passive Logic. They sell building controls. Honeywell and Johnson Controls and a long list of companies have been selling building controls to real estate for many years. And so finding a channel that you can sell into, I think is kind of critical. And then the other category I would say is businesses that control their own channel because they're using technology to develop something novel in real estate. Example of a business in our portfolio is Terawatt. They buy real estate and redevelop it as charging hubs for fleets of EVs, and they're just vertically integrated owner operator and deploy their own technology. And so, it still moves at the pace of real estate, which is not always the same pace as technology. But eliminate that friction with who you sell to.
Thank you. George, talking about some of these technologies, we'll get to the integration of them maybe into the field a little bit later, but what do you see as some emerging trends in PropTech, and how do you believe these are going to have a significant impact on real estate, say in the next 5-10 years?
Well, that's a loaded question to try to predict the future, 10 years out, 5 years out, or maybe even a month out. But kind of, I'll build on what Ben said about how fast technology is changing. So I think everyone knows AI is moving a million miles an hour in terms of the advancements and kind of the efficiencies. But I would say real estate is probably moving like it's in a school zone, and they are so slow in terms of using technology and really understanding the data. So I think it's time for real estate companies to get maybe out of the school zone, at least get up to maybe 35 miles an hour. They're never going to be able to kind of understand all the AI technology, and they'll probably understand it, but I'm not sure if they're going to implement it. So I think over the next 5 years, if we could get real estate companies to move a little faster, be a little bit more tech friendly, I think that would be a huge accomplishment.
Thanks. Charles, your company is working at that intersection of technology and real estate and really in the energy management sector. So what do you see as some of the biggest challenges for PropTech industry in the realm of energy management?
I think when it comes to energy and how PropTech has tried to define it, a lot of the focus has been around data and decarbonization. The issues with those propositions are, one, real estate companies typically aren't designed internally to be very good at analyzing data. So, if you go and you start installing sensors throughout your buildings and you're getting notices or big data sets, one, you're not very good at, they're typically not very good at analyzing that data and becoming actionable on it. And two, the signals that they are getting require this human interaction. So a building, maintenance person or a super is going to attend, and so now they're getting way more interruptions throughout their day to go deal with things that maybe are not problems. The sensors aren't working very well. The other part of the problem with decarbonization is it's really morphed into the electrification of everything, and I don't think with that transition, building owners are generally as aware of the acute issues they're facing in the near future with what that means to the cost of operating their buildings, what kind of expenses they're passing on to their tenants with regards to their electric bill, and the limited supply of electricity that's available to them as we see the transition, societally with, this unbelievable consumption from AI, data centers, electric vehicles, and the electrification of building systems overall.
Thanks. So we have heard the word AI, big data used repeatedly multiple times today. So Amy, in the multiple hats that you wear, one of them is also a published author In your book, From Data to Deals, How to Use AI and Up Your Real Estate Game, you really talk about the transformative power of AI in real estate. So can you share some insights on how AI is really helping professionals, like we were talking about, overcome challenges, and what are some new opportunities you see in the field of real estate?
Yeah, I wrote my book really to kind of be an AI 101 for real estate and all aspects of real estate, right? So even if you're an interior designer or a contractor or a property manager or a marketer or whatever, it was really like there was a chapter for each kind of facet of real estate. And so, yeah, and so there's a lot. It's amazing the amount of solutions that are being created, but it's also amazing kind of what an LLM can do. Like ChatGPT can do certain things, right? And is it like if you ask ChatGPT to underwrite a deal, you're going to come back and go, "Yeah, nice try. That was cute. That's lovely," and nowhere close to being realistic. So it does have its limitations for sure, but what I see happening now is around valuations. Those are there's gonna become there'll be a lot more models out there now. CoreLogic has a really good data set, and they have a really cool startup program, and so there's a lot of people in there using these large data lakes that have, Atom is another data house, Cherry is another one. You can start doing really cool things around predicting valuations, predicting paths of progress for real estate developers. You can do a lot of different things with the data now, and I think a lot of those are AI based. Some of them are just algorithmic, and there's a difference. And then there's a lot of stuff around just, I guess, the tenant experience. There's a lot happening there as well. I think what we're going to see in the real estate going forward is the problem that exists today is the large language models don't do a very good job for real estate companies. It's probably one of the reasons why it's not being there's not faster adoption in the industry. So there are these small language models, which are very specific, that are being built now for the real estate industry. And so you don't have to worry, you don't have to ask it. It's going to be trained on real estate, and it's going to know real estate. And that's what we're seeing now is this adoption to this like small language model, very specific subset of information and that you need to do that can help a real estate industry more than, and it's not just the real estate industry. There's small language models for the automotive industry, and there's small language models for this, that, and the other, because you don't need to know about Aristotle or when, we landed on the moon or anything. You're just trying to solve a very specific pain point in the industry. So I think a lot of that is where it goes. And then there'll be an increased adoption in the real estate industry towards these AI models that can really help because they're targeted for the industry.
Thanks, Amy. George, we have mentioned or hinted at, maybe we've hinted at it, maybe it could be more explicit on the maybe slowness of the real estate industry in adopting kind of these emerging techs. Can you talk a little bit about the history of the real estate industry's kind of aversion to change and how language models or energy storage technologies or big data analytics can be used and maybe best integrated into practice?
I could talk for about 2 hours about that topic, but we'll keep it short. So I guess, say up to like 2018, there was the classic maybe property management software and accounting software that was real estate focused. So a lot of companies kind of adopted that technology, but accounting software and property management software is very database focused. So it lends itself exactly to a database. So you're going to need that information in a database just to do the property management and accounting. And so kind of where we see potentially the gap is that information is great, but it really doesn't tell the full story of how the asset's performing. So all of that is backward looking. So how do you combine backward looking information with forward looking information and make it transparent? So I think real estate companies are maybe have gotten burned with other PropTech solutions from, say, probably 2010 to 2022. And so I think they've gotten burned saying, hey, let us do this ERP implementation. It's only going to take 9 months, and it's only going to be $5 million, and you're only going to pay a consultant $1 million to implement it. I think because they went through that process and you really don't know what you get till the end of the implementation, that a lot of them are gun shy right now. So I think the key going forward is for a PropTech company especially, is if you want to work with a real estate company, be able to prove value very quickly and not have to go through that massive ERP implementation. So I think that's where the change in the industry is going to be. And that's why it's such slow adoption.
What do you think are like challenges to making that happen?
I think it takes a nimble startup to basically make that happen. And so some of the bigger companies, say like a RealPage or an MRI or a Yardi, they're so entrenched in their existing software that they can't kind of flip a switch and all of a sudden add all this features to their software. They can add some, but basically the companies they're chasing are the large global investment funds, because there's so many different layers of real estate investors. So basically there's the company that manages billions of dollars of real estate, and then there's the person that owns 5 apartment complexes down the street. So how do you come up with a solution that meets all of those people? So I see the opportunity as let the big guys chase the whales, and we're happy to work with the smaller investment companies.
Awesome. Well, speaking of nimble startups, Charles, Novella is trying to revolutionize the real estate market by integrating a new energy storage management technology. So how is Novell encouraging adoption of this technology of the energy board? And are you seeing any resistance to traditional methodologies? And how are you guys kind of navigating that?
I think when you think about the customer, it's really important to understand, their decision-making process and who the stakeholders are. And so when we think about energy and buildings at Novell, we've tried to remove all of those barriers. And by that I mean, typically a real estate owner makes CapEx decisions once a year during a budget season. So if your value proposition isn't great, you're waiting a year until potentially having another shot at it. Or if their budget doesn't solve for that, it becomes really hard to sell into that system. And I think the other part is you really have to be accretive to the business. Right, so you have to be able to demonstrate quickly that you can add value to what they're doing and be seamless and integrating into the operations and the goals of all the stakeholders, and that includes the tenants, which are the customers of your customer, who are the real estate owners. That includes their limited partners. Real estate owners at this point, the asset class has grown. I mean, it's probably one of the largest asset classes in investing there is, and so as altruistic as an operator may be, they have limited partners that they have to answer to. Those investors have goals, and so you really have to think of the entire chain of stakeholders, and then integrate into that. And so, for us at Novell, that means delivering a minimum critical mass of economic value to them in the first year, and then getting their attention on how impactful that can be, and then we can add incremental changes over time and improvements. And then also creating a subscription model that allows us to, eliminate that CapEx question and sort of become an OpEx and integrate into their platform, driving value that way.
Awesome, thank you. Just a reminder as we continue our Q&A, if you have any questions, I see some flowing in, but remember to submit them with the QR code around you. Ben, I'm going to throw it back to you. You mentioned Terawatt as an example of a successful startup within the tech industry. Can you talk about the more broad role you see PropTech playing in addressing sustainability or energy efficiency in the real estate domain?
Yeah, I think people quote that the U.S. real estate footprint uses 40% of the U.S. Electricity. And, obviously that breaks down by different real estate asset classes in different ways. But it's a huge consumer. And so it has huge sway over where power comes from and how power is used. I think it's not super popular, sustainability right now. So I'm not sure we're gonna take an industry that has the kind of complexity of value proposition to get to sustainability and have it move over energy efficiency during this Trump administration. So I think like value propositions that I think work really well in real estate that across economic and political cycles are ones that increase NOI. So there's a lot of different things that tech can do to help a business increase NOI that may also reduce energy spend. A lot of them coincide with operational efficiency of a building. Typically, if you're making the HVAC more efficient, which is where most of the energy use is in many buildings, you are also improving maintenance, CapEx, and tenant experience, and things that are bottom line oriented in a way that real estate kind of already understands. So that's one aspect of it. Another is like the carbon footprint of building a building. This isn't where I specialize, but there are a lot of real estate organizations who think about their embedded carbon and their emissions footprint at day zero of operations. And you've seen progress, but not to the point of shifting supply chains on decarbonized steel, cement, and glass. I think we're kind of earlier in the technology maturity cycle that those things are like alternative materials to produce those three things are out there, but they're still more expensive. They need to get less expensive and be stand on their own on an economic value proposition to be competitive with incumbent products. And there definitely was a lot of subsidy going to that during the Biden administration. You saw businesses like Cleveland Cliffs electrifying steel arc furnaces. I think and that relied significantly on government subsidy. So I think you might see that take a step back and there not really be that economic value proposition potentially for a bit longer. Or maybe that just means there's more opportunity for startups to innovate in the meantime. So I'll leave it there. I could talk all day on this topic, but that's two elements that I think about.
Thanks, Ben. That's super insightful. Amy, speaking of energy, data centers are integral right now, leveraging AI. Many of you might have ChatGPT on your phone or leverage Copilot for work. There's also controversy around data centers. They're a huge energy usage. They require a lot of real estate and also create few jobs as they bring in that real estate. But they're really important, especially as we're talking about integrating AI within real estate, as we've mentioned today, and the panel following this, it's in medtech. So everyone is seeing this as an opportunity. So how do you see the role of data centers evolving, and what impacts do they have on kind of PropTech innovations?
I think the data center industry, obviously, if anybody reads the news, I mean, it's exploding. And I think there's an article out today. So FYI, I host a data center news show. It happens every week. Shameless plug. But we talk about the news and everything. And we're going to talk about today is the fact that it seemed like the electric grid could kind of keep up with the data center demand. Like it just seemed like the other, somebody magically found another gigawatt of power somewhere, and then they could just build out this brand new data center. And a lot of the wind farms or solar farms that were kind of existing and kicked into the grid were, now going to be data centers are kind of co-locating next to them. But I think there's an article out today saying that we finally reached it. Like there's more data center demand than there is power. We always knew the industry was going to be power constrained. So it makes what the challenge is going to be is all these new AI startups that are trying to innovate the industry. They need compute power. They can't just stick it in their garage and like run AI on, buy some Blackwell GPUs from NVIDIA and stick it in their garage. No, they have to have compute power. So they're going to need more and more data center space. So as there's more and more AI startups, as we're transitioning or adopting this, we're going to have data centers where they can do that. I think there's what's happening in the industry now is that everybody knows about the Microsofts and Googles and the large hyperscalers where they stick them out in Timbuktu and they can just be there and do whatever and nobody really needs anything. But what's happening now is because of things like Waymo and the AI startups that need compute power, they're all concerned about latency, which means that they're moving, they call them edge data centers, but they're moving these compute data centers closer to metropolitan areas. Because when you're building an AI startup and you're trying to get it to do its magical thing, it needs to be closer to you, especially you don't want your stuff to crash. I should know, we like fun things being in an AI startup. But so that's driving a lot of the data center industry today. And more developments more and more people are looking for developments, 30 miles out from a major metro area. Atlanta, Georgia is freaking on fire. And they're getting more and more requests now for power. So a lot of what's going to happen is we're going to it's just forcing the industry to relook at the energy grid. It's forcing the industry to see how can we do any sort of sustainable energy generation. Microgrids will be a thing where people are going to be producing power on site themselves and using energy startups to do that with. I mean, if you got a natural gas pipeline anywhere near your site, it's probably and you can produce your own energy. That's a good data center location. So it's an interesting time right now. I think in the real estate industry, I do see that there's some traditional companies like that were in multifamily or then office, and they're trying to dip their toe into the data center industry because it's the shiny object. And it's a steep learning curve. And so when you get into this industry, you'll find that it's an amazing thing. There was a data center dynamics conference in New York, and it probably had double the population. It was a couple weeks ago. Probably had double the population it normally does. And most of the people were like new entrants into the industry trying to figure it out. And so I think it becomes a play. I think it's not going away anywhere. I think the data center industry is going to be on fire for the next 20 years. That's the only crystal ball statement I'm going to make, by the way, Scarlett. I
appreciate that.
I think I'm going to be safe that way if I can make that statement. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And it's interesting to see how, because you have all these like late adopters to AI. We haven't even touched the iceberg of what we can do with AI yet. And, a lot of industries haven't fully embraced it yet. So can you imagine when like the real estate industry comes on board and then the medical industry really comes on board? And then you have, all the other banking and everybody else, they're just touching surfaces. They're like, don't screw with my day. And I'll try this little thing, or I'll try that little thing. And that won't hurt me as much. But nobody's really, I'm seeing is fully embracing it. So when that does happen, we're going to need more data centers, and we're going to need more compute power, and we're going to need more storage and all the other great things. And then don't even talk about 6G. That's, coming around we can just go on. I'm like Ben, we could talk about this forever.
Yeah, I've heard, energy storage is one of the biggest obstacles facing real estate right now. And bringing these on, I've heard multiple companies being told they have to wait 6 months, a year to be able to plug into the grid and have to generate a certain percentage of their own energy in order to even be able to plug into the grid. So this is a real challenge, particularly as more data centers are being brought online. So thank you.
It's now like 5 years, Scarlett.
Yeah, I know.
So depending on the geography. But it's like, it's crazy. It is for sure. So it's going to be a big challenge, but I think the real estate industry can solve it. I think, like we're all entrepreneurs, stick an obstacle in front of us and we'll figure out a way to fix it.
Absolutely. We are lucky to have 4 founders here with us today. George, you told us you started in architectural engineering here. Love that. And then you went to real estate school, master's, and then you found yourself into the real estate industry and then into a startup company. So what would you say about kind of the pathways into real estate startups? We just saw at the keynote the students, young startups pitching. There's also people who enter the field later. So what can you tell us about kind of the journey of that?
I think the key aspect, especially in real estate, is to get some domain knowledge working at say a real estate company or whatever company you're working, not in tech, but just basically working at that company so you can see the pain points firsthand. If you spend probably a year at a real estate company, the pain points will just jump out right in front of you in terms of how they manage data, how they're making decisions. And real estate is really the only industry I know. I'm not sure if that's similar with other industries, but instead of jumping kind of face first into a PropTech startup where you're trying to move data around that you may or may not really even understand why someone would look at it, I would say spend 2 to 3 years at a real estate company. And after 2 or 3 years, you will have a laundry list of ideas of how technology can improve things. And then the trick is, once you get into the PropTech space, you have to be able to talk their lingo and say, hey, I've sat in your seat. I know the problem. You can't tell me you don't have the problem because you've kind of have the scars. So I think getting the domain knowledge is critical.
Thanks. Charles, opposite path. Business school, real estate industry, startup company, energy, engineering, more technology. So what are your viewpoints on it? How did your experience kind of within real estate inform the way you interact within Novell and the industry?
I think George summarized it very well. I think in the keynote when Jeff Martha was talking about Medtronic and how it was founded, there's a lot of times that people have good ideas and they sort of create a solution that's looking for a problem. And I think, that they really struggle to sell those products. And if you can very clearly articulate a problem and then reverse engineer the solution, you end up with a much better pathway to commercializing that. And so I think that would be one of the key things in understanding, how to, start down that road. For me in real estate, I was constantly trying to integrate new technology into our buildings, and there were entrepreneurs that just fundamentally did not understand how we were utilizing certain sets of information, how we were making decisions, what was really proprietary, And I think that the real estate people in general are quite good at sort of solving problems and figuring things out. A lot of times they deal with, a whole plethora of industries, from engineers and architects to bankers and lawyers, that they're quite capable, and so really understanding the industry and being able to.
You hit on one of my catchphrases. I always say I'm an engineer, and I always say we're really good at solving problems, but we don't always know what the problem is. And so connections and integrations within industry to really have that strong pathway allows us to kind of connect Penn State researchers to really solve the problems that are, I say, out there, like in the real world. So I appreciate that. We have some great questions from the audience. So I am going to throw the first one over to Amy. How does PropTech intersect with intellectual property, like patents, trademarks, copyright, trade secrets, and is intellectual property generally helpful, or do you view it as a barrier to success?
Well, I mean, any startup's going to have IP. I mean, that's the crux at their competitive advantage. So, typically software, you can't patent software, but you can copyright it, and you can have a trade secret and those kinds of things. The stuff that's patentable or our processes or hardware, typically. And so, I think the industry as a whole is just like any other technology industry, in that you protect your IP. And I think if I were to talk about challenges around that is, there's a lot of integration challenges in the prop tech sector. There's a lot of people that went out and solved very specific pain points to very small, minute pain points for the real estate companies. And that was great. I mean, that's kind of how most industries start. When they're fairly new, they'll go, oh, our beachhead market is a very, very tiny thing, and we're just going to go do that and get a lot of customers. Fabulous. But what happens is then you create another problem, because over time those customers go, well, that's great. Now I have 17 logins and I got to go figure out how to do my life. And that's just another problem you just created. So I think, but back to the IP question, I mean, the IP is the IP, no matter what kind of technology company you are. It's not necessarily a hindrance. I think it's how the industry approached it. And now we've got integration problems. And I think we're getting better at how we integrate. And then also, I think the other thing around IP is an understanding who owns the data. And I think there's a lot of discussion around whose data is it? Is it the PropTech companies, or is it the customers? And some of the customers, like if you're in the data center industry like I am, they're like, it's mine and you can't have it, and you'll have to license it from me. Like it kind of depends. But there's lots of different I hope I answered that question.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. Ben, on a related note, maybe to IP copyright, what investment strategies does Keyframe employ to really identify and support promising PropTech startups? Are you looking kind of at the IP or copyright around that?
Sometimes. I think it depends on the depth of, what the technical potential and achievement is of the business. And there's a lot in PropTech that is a lot more solve a customer's problem with software or integration that is less important that it's IP, and more important that it solves a great problem for a customer. One of the really nice things about real estate organizations is once they start using a new product, they very infrequently want to change. And so, tend to see extremely high revenue retention. That's also makes it hard to sell them something new. But once you're in there, it tends to be great. So I think it kind of depends on what the product is. But if it's a, new material science breakthrough, or a very heavily invested into system, then certainly IP is important.
Thank you so much. Charles, got one for you. From the audience, how meaningful can the energy savings be in the context of a property level pro forma? What is the magnitude of the impact of NOI? Easy one, very easy.
So every building is different, and every geography has different utility and different incentives. That being said, we've seen in our customer sets that we're deploying our assets into that we can, have, meaningful economic benefit from demand initially, like right off the bat. The way the demand part of your electric bill is calculated, and the way we design electrical infrastructure in buildings is to solve and to be able to utilize all of the equipment at the building at the same time and start it up at its highest demand load. And it's really, really an inefficient way for the bills to be. So there's a lot of savings there. Typically the savings for our customers is in the order of $10,000 to $100,000 a month in electrical savings. So, these bills are significant. One of the things that the real estate industry has done, and everyone here who's has experience is in the way the leases are structured, they're passing through energy expenses and variable expenses to the tenants, and so there's really nobody responsible and paying attention to how those things are being utilized, right? The landlord typically, this is the split incentive in real estate that makes it really hard to sell these kind of products is, why am I going to invest as a landlord into a CapEx product that's going to reduce your operating expense, tenant? And tenant, why am I going to invest in a CapEx product that's going to improve your building, landlord? And so, the tenant, and for the history of time, we've never had the flexibility on the demand side to understand what we're using our energy for, how we're using it, when we're using it, and when we buy it. It's always been a single point of consumption. Like, I turn on my light switch, I'm consuming power. I don't know how much power, I don't know how much it costs, I don't know why it costs what it costs, but I pay the bill because I know I need lights. Now we have the technology to control that. Built-in flexibility, change the way we use energy, reduce our demand loads. The demand loads are what are driving all of these connection issues in the grid with data centers, because you have to be, if you exceed your demand allocation, your building doesn't function. So the demand allocations have to be sized to these huge levels, but nobody ever actually uses that. It's sort of, the example I use is when a stadium is built, right? There's always, sometimes people may be familiar or not, they flush all the toilets at the same time. They want to know that the plumbing works and all the toilets can flush, but in reality, that never, ever, ever happens. So you don't need to have that much water built into the system and plumbing to do that. But just in case, we have it sized that way. And now with the technology, we're able to control it, move the energy, deploy it, charge at night, and really level out those demands and create flexibility in the buildings, in the neighborhood, in the grid, and there's incredible value there.
Thank you. We're nearing the end of our session. Amy, I'm going to throw the last one over to you. So you mentioned earlier that you're in the PropTech Council, and I mentioned that Penn State is an affiliate university of that. So can you talk about the opportunities you see for universities to contribute to the future growth and innovation in the PropTech sector?
So, I hate to get political, but I feel for universities today with DOGE's impact on research dollars. But that's been the economic engine for the U.S. for a very long time. That's what researchers are great at. I mean, our universities are great at is research and developing new inventions and moving forward on different things. And a lot of those inventions, whether they're developed for real estate or not, might apply. And so sometimes a lot of, like, if you look at drone technology today, that came out of something that was developed for the defense industry, but it started at a university. So I think that what we're focused on at the council really is to build kind of that bridge. I think universities will still have research happening out of it, but we really want to build on the commercialization potential that universities can offer for startups. So startups don't have to start from ground zero or from scratch every single time. If they can look at IP that's at a university and then build from that, I think that just shortens the cycle of the development cycle for sure. And I think, for investors who are looking at, PropTech as the real estate industry turns around, and it always does. Been a real estate investor for 22 years. It will, if you look at those that are developing really good relationships with the universities, I would look at those startups, because they're going to have the latest and greatest of stuff, and they're going to have the ability to work and lean on those universities. I like the university accelerators. I'll give you a plug, Scarlett. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome what y'all are doing there. And I look forward to see kind of more that comes out of that whole arrangement around what PropTech. But I believe And that's why I wanted to start the university initiative, because I think it's just such key to the ecosystem that we have a really good, strong link with the universities.
Thank you, Amy. As someone who has 3 patents developed from university IP and on my own startup company, I really resonate with what you said. So thank you all for the incredible conversation today and for coming here to Penn State to make this happen. Before we wrap up, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Cocoziello Institute. It's the newest institute at Penn State, and Penn State is really devoted to revolutionizing the future of the built environment, so much so that they've actually given a 1-to-1 match for any gifts to the institute that will be matched. That will go towards advancing research, partnerships, or progress in it. So if you're interested in learning more or talking about how to get involved either through projects or other opportunities, feel free to reach out to me after this session, or we also have some flyers at the Invent Penn State booth. I have a gift for all of you all. Ben and Amy, I haven't figured out, my IP does not cover teleportation of gifts, but we'll get those to you as well. So thank you for your time here today as well. Up next, I want to know everyone to know the next session is AI and MedTech. So we're going to continue the conversation there, and life sciences, navigating FDA and practical challenges, which will be here at 2:10, which gives you 10 minutes to refresh a little bit before that. So we hope that you all will stay engaged in the conversation. Thank you for your questions, and thank you again to our panelists.